Okay, so after this week's last week's assignment, it became very clear to me that we're maybe not understanding what the difference is between an expression and an equation. So that's what we're going to focus on this week, and the following week we're going to work on expressions and equations and understanding the difference between the two. That way, when you go into high school and the teacher asks you to write an expression or write an equation, you'll be able to determine the difference between the two and get the correct answer. So the definition for an expression is a number sentence using any of the four math operations, and those are add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Now notice it says a number sentence, but we know that sometimes a variable can be used as a number, so you may have letters in there as well. The biggest thing for this is that there is not an equal sign. That's the biggest difference. So it's important to remember that there is no equal sign for an expression. And we write expressions all the time and we don't even realize that we're doing it. For example, an expression would be 4 times 3. We're using an operation, we're using numbers. Or it could be 9 plus negative 8. Or we can have 10 divided by 2. So all these are expressions, but we could also have letters when we use expressions. So we could have 4x, which means 4 times x. Or we can have 9 plus c. Or we could have d divided by 2. All of these are expressions, and the reason they're called an expression is because they do not have an equal sign. Expressions do not have equal signs. Now, when we move on to the difference between an expression and equation, the most obvious one that's going to pop out and which separates the two is an equation. It doesn't have the word equal, but it has something similar to the word equal right there. So this is almost the exact same definition. It's a number sentence using any of the 4 math operations where we'll put 2 sides are equal. So this does have an equal sign. And again, this is the biggest difference, and this should be the easiest way to tell the difference between an equation and an expression. Okay, and now we're going to go into equation examples. Let me try to move my contraption here. Okay, so an example of an equation would be 4 times 3 equals 12. Or 9 plus negative 8 equals 1. This side of the equation is equal to this side of the equation. Or 10 divided by 2 equals 5. Okay, now we can also pull down some variables for x equals 12. Again, it has to have that equal sign in there to be an equation. 9 plus c equals 1. We could have d divided by 2 equals 5. Now, it is possible for us to go through here and make this long equation, like x squared plus y squared equals 10x squared minus 14y squared plus 3. Okay, all of this is still an equation because it has that fancy little equal sign right there in the middle. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some equations and expressions all jumbled up. And for your part of this assignment, here at the bottom, we're going to separate them into their category: expressions and equations. So I'm going to put this list up, and then I want you to pause the video, and I want you to write, there should be 3 for each. I want you to write them in the correct column. Once you're finished writing them in the correct column, then you're going to take a picture of your work and submit it on Google Classroom. This will be your first activity for this week. All right, here are your expressions and equations all mixed together. So make sure you pause this video here, and you're going to separate these into the different columns.